Minasan, konnichiwa, watashi wa ueda ni desu. Rani sensei to yonde kudasai. Today we're going to study first lesson of our Genki reference. So by now, I'm expecting everyone to have memorized hiragana, katakana. Okay, not just how to read it, but also how to write it. Okay, it's very important that before we study the grammar of Japanese language, we know how to read this Japanese writing system. So we have all the materials we can use. We have YouTube, we have Google. We can print out those ways of how to write hiragana and katakana. Okay, so for now, let's proceed to our first lesson. Okay, so if you have your Genki reference book, please turn it to our first grammar lesson. So this one is read as bunpo. Bunpo. Bunpo means grammar. Okay, so in every language, lahat yan merong mga grammar lessons. So merong mga sentence patterns na pag-aaralan natin. The same with English, the same with our own language, Tagalog. Meron din tayong mga sentence pattern. And most especially, ganun din naman sa Japanese language o sa Nihongo. Meron din silang sentence pattern na sinusunod. At ang pinakaunang mapag-aaralan natin na sentence pattern ay itong tiyatawag na X, Y, des. X and Y are both variables. So, they are changeable. Pinapalitan sila ng noun. Okay, tandaan ninyo, noun lang ang nilalagay natin dito sa pattern na to. So, X is our first noun and Y is our second noun. Let's read this. It is 12:30. So, this almost three words is already a complete sentence. It already has a thought. It has a subject and a predicate. Okay? Same with this one. I am a student. The topic is I. Alam natin na ang am is the to be verb. Ito naman yung tinatawag natin ng mga a articles, the articles, and student. My major is the Japanese language. So, all these three sentences, meron silang mga topic. And as you will notice later on, dito sa mga sentences na to, they are translated to Japanese language. Lahat sila nagtatapos sa des. Okay, why is that? Des, ito yung counterpart sa English na to be. Ito yung mga to be verb. Yung is, am, are. Okay, so ayan yung tinatawag nating to be verb. At mapapansin nyo dito, wala lang counterpart sa Nihongo yung mga articles like a or the. Itong a or an or the na articles. Okay, so wala yan dito sa Nihongo counterpart. Okay, so later on, mas mauunawaan pa natin. Let us read this first example. Juni jihan desu. Juni jihan desu. If we translate it literally, it's just is 12:30. Wala yung it. It is the subject. I mean, etong it na to ay yung subject, yung topic dito sa sentence. So, it is already omitted. For the second sentence, gakusei desu. Gakusei desu. If we will translate it, it's just student. Des is am, the to be verb, and gakusei is student. Okay? Mapapansin niyo wala rin yung subject. And for our last example, Nihongo desu. Nihongo desu. Nihongo desu is the Japanese language. Wala rin yung may major dito sa sentence na to. Pero, if you are trying to answer with these sentences, it is possible to use just this sentence in Japanese without the subject. Why? Why is that? If you will read this, okay. Note that none of these sentences has a subject. Okay, tulad nga nabanggit ko sa inyo kanina, wala yung mga subject na to, itong mga nasa open and close parentheses. Like the it, I, and my major found in their English counterparts. Sentences without subjects are very common in Japanese. Japanese speakers actually tend to omit subjects whenever they think it is clear to the listener what or who they are referring to. So, very simple pagdating sa Japanese language, kapag ka alam na nila yung pinag-uusapan, alam na nila yung topic, it is okay to omit the subject. Halimbawa, tinanong ka, estudyante ka ba? Pwede mo nang isagot na, oo, estudyante. Hindi, kahit wala na yung subject, ano ba yung subject doon? Ako. Oo, ako ay estudyante. Okay, nagets ninyo sa Tagalog, ganun lang siya. Pwede nang tanggalin yung ako, ay. Kasi yung ako doon, yun yung subject. Pwede mo nang diretso yun na sagutin na estudyante. So, ganun din pagdating sa Nihongo. For example, yung nagtanong, sabi niya, Gakusei desu ka? Gakusei desu ka? Tinanong, estudyante ka ba? Pwedeng isagot with the subject, Hai, watashi wa gakusei desu. Hai, watashi wa gakusei desu. Pero, pwede rin niyang sagutin ng, Hai, gakusei desu. Hai, gakusei desu. Pwede na yung diretsuhin, wala na yung subject na I. Okay? Are we clear with that? Other example, yanong na, anata no senko wa Nihongo desu ka? Anata no senko wa Nihongo desu ka? When we say senko, that is major. Tinanong siya na, ang major mo ba ay Japanese language? Pwede niya na lang sagutin na, Hai, Nihongo desu. Hai, Nihongo desu. Diretso na dun sa sagot niya kahit wala na yung subject, which is my major. Kapag binuo natin kasama yung subject, Hai, watashi no senko wa Nihongo desu. O, diba? Masyado na siyang mahaba and very, understandable na ang tinutukoy niya ay yung sarili niya. Okay? The subject is already clear and very obvious. So, that's why it can be omitted. Okay? But not all the time. I-omit lang siya kapag ka naiintindihan na, kapag ka clear na kung ano yung topic or yung pinag-uusapan. Okay? So, what are we to do then when it is not clear what is being talked about? To make explicit what we are talking about, we can say, blank wa Nihongo desu. Blank is the Japanese language. Okay. Ngayon, kapag hindi ngayon clear kung ano yung pinag-uusapan, lalagyan natin ngayon ng subject. Okay, lalagyan ng subject. Paano natin siya malalagyan ng subject? We use the particle wa. Okay? Doon na lalabas ngayon yung pattern natin na x, wa, y, des. X, wa, y, des. So, in this pattern, ang subject natin ay yung x. Why is that? Bakit ito yung ating subject? Okay, take note that wa, okay, mapapansin nyo dito, itong wa na to, it is spelled as ha. Diba? Kung napag-aralan ninyo or na-memorize nyo na yung hiragana chart ninyo, ito ay hindi wa. Ito ay ha. Pero this is an exemption. Okay? Whenever ha is used as a particle, okay, this time ito ay particle. If it is used as particle, it is no longer read as ha, but wa. Okay, binabasa na natin to na wa. And etong wa, etong particle wa, ang purpose nito is to mark the subject. Isa lang ang purpose nitong particle wa. So, let's take note of that. Particle wa. Particle wa marks the subject. Okay, please take note of that. Maganda, meron pa rin kayong notes. Although you are watching this video, please be diligent to take down notes. Particle wa. These are called the particles. So there's a lot of particles that you will encounter with Nihongo. Okay, napakarami pa niyan. This is the first one, the very basic, particle wa. It marks the subject. So, ngayon, because we have a marker for the subject, it is now easy for us to identify which is the subject of the sentence. Okay? Tandaan niyo kung ano yung minamark niya, ayun yung nasa unahan. Okay? So, since nasa unahan tong X, ayun yung minamark ng particle wa, and that is the subject. Okay. Ngayon, if we will complete this sentence, let us use this one. Senko. Senko is the major. Okay, Senko, and then particle wa as the marker. Nihongo des. Nihongo des, the Japanese language. Okay, if you will notice, etong Senko ay yung ating X. Ito yung ating first noun. And then, particle wa, that is, as we follow the pattern. And the second noun, Y, is Nihongo. And then the last part, des. Okay, so you can see here, we have followed the pattern. X wa, Y des. X wa, Y des. Okay, just like that, makakapag-construct na tayo ng sentence. Meron tayong first noun as the subject, and we mark it with particle, correct? Particle wa. And then we have Y, or our second noun, and then we end it with this. Okay? Similarly, one can use the pattern X wa, Y des to identify a person or a thing, X as item Y. Okay, so aside from it being the subject and the predicate, we also use it to identify a person or a thing. For example, watashi wa tsukimu desu. Watashi wa tsukimu desu. Watashi is I. Wa, particle. So the subject here is watashi. Ang pinag-uusapan dito ay ako. Ako yung tinutukoy, 'di ba? Ako yung Y. Ano ba yung Y? Yung name ko. For example, if I will substitute it with my name, it will be Rani. Rani. Okay? Watashi wa Rani desu. X is Y. Okay? Yung X ay si Y. It is also used to identify. So if you will introduce yourself using Nihongo, you can say watashi wa your name desu. Okay? So napakadali lang, you can use that. Although we also have the pattern watashi no namae wa wera ni desu. Watashi wa wera ni to moshimasu. We all have different patterns of how to say our name, but this is one way to identify ourselves or to introduce ourselves. Okay, so let's proceed. Another example. Yamashita-san wa sensei desu. Yamashita-san wa sensei desu. Okay, so let's identify. Himayin natin tong sentence na to. Asa ng X dyan? Itong Yamashita-san. Okay. Mapapansin niyo ang pangalan lang naman niya ay Yamashita. Yamashita. Pero saan nanggaling yung san? Okay. Yung san, mamaya mas mauunawaan pa natin later on sa mga useful expressions. Pero to put it simply, san is just a way of referring to someone. Kung sa English, andyan yung Mr. Sa Nihongo, we use san. So, Yamashita-san wa, our particle. With this particle, ma-identify natin saan dito yung subject. Our subject is Yamashita-san. Yamashita-san wa sensei desu. So, in-identify natin na itong X ay isang Y. Na itong si Yamashita ay isang sensei. Okay? Clear? Next. Mayari-san wa America-jin desu. Mayari-san wa America-jin desu. Okay. Mayari ay pangalan. Yan ay Mary. Okay? Yan ay Mary. So, we use katakana Okay, you should have recognized this one. Ito ay katakana. Bakit? Kasi ang Mary ay isang foreign name. Ayan, nakalagay naman dito, she is an American. America, ganun din ang country name, yan ay nakakatakana din dahil foreign name yan. And then, gumagamit tayo nitong Jean. Okay, may kita nyo dito tong Jean. Ito ay idinadagdag after the country. Okay, for example, yan nga dito sa example natin, America, Jean. Ibig sabihin, American, kaya Amerikano. Ngayon, paano ang Pilipino? So, ang Nihongo ng Philippines ay Philippine. Okay, and then dudugtungan natin ng Jin, yun na ngayon ay Philippine Jin. Kaya, pwede ko sabihin na, watashi wa Philippine Jin desu. Watashi wa Philippine Jin desu. So, X, mayari-sang, particle wa as the marker of the subject, and then America Jin, our Y or the second noun, and then this. Okay, so we just stick to the pattern and we won't go wrong with our grammar pagdating sa Nihongo. So it's just a very basic pattern, X, Y des, wherein yung X ay si Y if we are going to introduce someone or something. Ganun din naman, X are the subject and Y as the predicate. Okay, Y is a member of the class of words called particles. Yan, tulad nga ng sinabi ko sa inyo kanina, particles. Wa marks the subject. Okay, so is the word no. So meron pa tayong isang maliban sa particle wa. Mamaya mas maintindihan natin what is particle no. Okay, so kung mapapansin ninyo, hindi ko nilalagyan ng romaji. Okay, para mapilitan kayong sa uluhin nito. Yan, ang basa dyan ay no. Ito naman ay wa. Again, kapag ka ang ha ay ginagamit as particle, it is no longer read as ha, but it is read as wa. Okay? Now, particles attach themselves to phrases and indicate how the phrases relate to the rest of the sentence. So, sa madaling sabi, itong mga particles na to, sila yung nagbibigay ng identity doon sa mga phrases or set of words or a single word. For example, etong Yamashita, because of the particle wa, it is now identified as the subject. Okay? Ganon din yung sensei. Pwede rin siyang maging subject if we will just use particle wa dito sa sensei. So, basically, etong mga particle na to, sila yung nag-identify how a certain word will relate to the rest of the sentence. Okay? Kaya later on, kailangan bawat particle, masaulo nyo sila, and by heart, by mind, malaman ninyo na maigi paano ba ginagamit ng mga particles. Okay? So, for now, let's just focus on particle wa and particle no. Note also that nouns like let's just move this up. Oops. Okay, there you go. Note also that nouns like gakuse and sensei in the above example stand alone, unlike their English translations students and teacher, which are preceded by a or a. In Japanese, there is no item that corresponds to a, nor is there any item that corresponds to the plural s at the end of a noun. Without background situations, a sentence like gakuse des is therefore ambiguous between the singular and the plural interpretations. It may mean we are or you are, or also they can mean they are students, as well as I am or you are or she is students. So, basically, gusto lang naman sabihin dito na etong student at teacher, tulad na nabanggit ko sa inyo kanina, ay kapag ka nasa English translation, nagkakaroon ng a. Pero dito sa Nihongo, sensei lang. Wala tayong makikita dyang a article. Okay, wala dyan. Kasi ito, Yamashita. Oh, sorry. Ito ay Yamashita. Ito. Ito naman yung sang, ito yung Mr. Wa, ayun naman yung particle natin na walang katumbas sa English. Okay? Pang-mark lang siya ng subject. And then, sensei, that is teacher. Des, ayun yung to be verb natin, which is itong is. Ngayon, tong A na to, wala siyang counterpart. The same with wa na walang counterpart sa Nihongo. Okay? So, let's not confuse ourselves with that. Tandaan lang natin na walang a sa Japanese. So, dinadagdag natin yan just to be correct sa English grammar natin. Okay? Ganun din naman sa English at Tagalog, not word by word ay merong translation. Meron dong isang salita na na-omit or talagang wala siyang kahulugan sa isang lingwahe. Okay. And also, hindi lang yon, meron ding tinatawag na yung plural and singular. So, hindi natin alam kung ang pinag-uusapan ba ay marami o iisa kung wala tayong background of the situation or yung tinatawag nating context, ano ba yung pinag-uusapan. Dahil, sabi nga dito, yung salitang gakusedes, hindi lang isa ang pwedeng maging meaning niyan. Pwede yang magkahulugan ng we are students, pwede ring you are student, we are students, you are a student, they are a student. They are students. Pwede rin naman siyang magkahulugan ng I am a student, you are a student, or she is a student. Pwede rin he is a student. So marami. Malawak ang pwedeng maging meaning ng salitang gakuse des. Ngayon, malalaman mo lang kung ano ba yung meaning niyan talaga, hindi siya magiging magulo kung alam niyo yung pinag-uusapan. For example, tinanong ko, yung mga yun ba, yung group of people na yun ay mga estudyante? So, alam nung kausap ko na ang tinutukoy ko ay yung maraming tao na nandoon. Sabi natin yung mga nakaupo doon sa ilalim ng puno, mga 5 tao yun. Sila ba yung mga estudyante? Ngayon, kapag sinagot nung kausap ko, hi, gakusedes. Ibig sabihin, hindi niya doon tinutukoy na, oo, ako ay estudyante. Ang tinutukoy niya doon na, oo, sila ay estudyante. Okay? Kaya doon papasok na magiging plural siya kasi alam nung kausap ko kung ano yung tinutukoy. Maliwanag? So, hindi siya magiging gakuses. Magkakaroon ng isa dulo. It's not how it works. Hindi siya yung parang English language na magkakaroon lang ng S or ES kapag ka plural. Okay? Ngayon, sa Nihongo, wala siyang plural or singular. It's just what is the context. Kung ano yung pinag-uusapan nyo, then yun ang ibig sabihin nito. Kaya mahalaga maintindihan nyo muna kayong dalawa kung ano ba yung pinag-uusapan para it's possible for you to omit the subject and then mas klaro sa inyo kung ano ba yung isinagot mo sa kanya. Okay? Ganun din pag nagbabasa kayo ng mga dialogue, na di ba mayroong mga dialogue dito, pag binabasa nyo yun, it's very important na alam niyo kung ano yung pinag-uusapan. Okay, so we're done with our first pattern, which is X, Y, des. Tandaan ninyo, ito ay noun, ganun din naman ito. Okay, so for our second topic, we have here the question sentences. So, kanina, syempre, mga simple statement lang yun. Pag sabi nating statement, ipinapahayag natin yun. Okay, so now, papasok na tayo doon sa interrogative question sentences, mga patanong. So, sa English, pag gusto mo maging tanong yan, lalagyan mo ng question mark sa dulo. Paano naman ngayon sa Nihongo? Okay? So, very simple lang. Question sentences, dinudugtungan lang ng ka sa dulo. Ka. Okay? So, yan ay ka. Hiragana yan. Lalagyan ng ka. So, hindi sila talaga normally naglalagay ng question mark kapag gumamit na sila niyang ka. It is very easy to form questions in Japanese. Basically, all you need to do is add ka at the end of a statement. Maglalagay lang ng ka sa dulo. Okay? For example, this is a statement. Ryu gakusei desu. Ryu gakusei desu. Ryu gakusei ay international student para sa mga exchange student. Okay? So, from a different country, pupunta sila Japan to study. Ngayon, paano natin ito ma-turn into a question? Okay? Very easy lang. Sabi nga dito, all you need to do is add ka at the end of a statement. So, we have Ryu gakusei desu. Lalagyan na lang natin ng ka. So, sabi nga dito, Ryu gakusei desu ka. Okay. Hindi ko siya ma-mark ng ayos. Wait lang. Yan. So, ito ay Ryu gakusei desu ka? Ryu gakusei desu ka? The above sentence, Ryu gakusei desu ka? Is a yes or no question. Ryu gakusei desu ka? Ryu gakusei desu ka? Ito ay yes or no question. Ibig sabihin, masasagot siya by answering yes, hi, or ye, no. Meron din naman mga questions na hindi mo siya pwedeng masagot ng yes or no kapag ginamitan na sila ng ginagamit natin ng mga question words. Ano ba yung mga yon? Yung what, where, when, and why. Also, we have how. Okay? So, ginagamit natin yung what, that is nani, where, doko, when, itsu, why, doshite or nande, and how, doyatte. Doyatte. Okay. So, gamit itong mga to, question sentences may also contain a question word like nan or nani. In this lesson, we learn how to ask and answer questions using the following question words: nanji, what time; nansai, how old; nannense, what year in school. So, dito sa book na to, matututunan natin paano itanong yung ilang taon ka na, anong oras na, and anong year mo na sa school. Okay? So, mapapansin nyo tong nan or nani. Merong dalawang way paano ito ipopronounce. Pero, either way, they both have the same meaning. Pareho lang sila ng ibig sabihin. Ibig sabihin lang yan, ano, what. Okay? Basahin nyo dito sa pangalawa. The Japanese question word for what has two pronunciations, nan and nani. Nan is used immediately before des or before a counter like G. When we say counter, ito yung mga ginagamit na paraan kung paano mo i-identify yung specific categories. For example, category of time. Ang counters ng time is G. Kaya pag sinabing 1 o'clock, hindi mo lang sasabihin ng ichi. Alam naman natin, pag sinabing 1, ichi. Pero, pag tinanong ka, ima nanji desu ka? Ima nanji desu ka? Hindi mo lang sasabihin na ichi desu. 1. 1 lang talaga yun. Siyagot mo siya ng 1. Paano siya magiging 1 o'clock? Dadagdagan mo ng G sa dulo. Ang counters, nilalagay yan sa dulo ng number. Okay? Ichiji. Okay? Ichiji, that's 1 o'clock. So, meron pang ibang mga counters. For example, counter ng age. So, hindi mo lang siya sasabihin na ichi. Pag 1-year-old, isai. Okay? Magkakaroon siya ng sai as the counter. Ngayon, kapag katatanungin mo na ngayon, anong oras na? Gagamitin mo yung question word plus the counter kung ano yung gusto mong itanong. Kung gusto mong itanong na anong oras na, nan, and then, di ba, sabi nga, kapag ginamit mo yung word na what before a counter or before ng des, gagamitin mo yung pronunciation na nan. So, it's now nanji kapag ka sa oras. Kapag ka naman sa edad, nansai. Okay, clear with that? Nanji or nansai. Ngayon, kapag ka naman, otherwise, maliban, nani is used before a particle. Kapag ka naman merong kasunod na particle, yun nga, yung mga mapag-aaralan natin, ginagamit naman daw yung nani sa ibang mga form, okay? Not all the time. And then, nani is also used in the combination nani-jin, kung ano yung nationality. So, kung itatanong mo, taga saan ka or anong nationality mo? Nani-jin desu ka? Nani-jin desu ka? Ayan yung tanong. Sasagutin mo naman ng, for example, watashi wa Philippine jin desu. Watashi wa Philippine jin desu. Isa-substitute mo lang yung what, yung nan, or yung nani in this scenario. Okay? Let's see the examples. Alright. Ima, nanji desu ka? Ima, nanji desu ka? Ima is now. Nanji desu ka? Nanji is what time. And then, desu ka? Is it now? What time is it now? Ima, kuji desu. Kuji desu. So, ang ku ay galing sa Q na number 9. Q. So, kapag ginamit siya as time, hindi na siya ni-spell as Q. Hindi na siya yung K-Y-U-U. Siya na ay K-U na lang. Ku. Kuji. Kuji. 9 o'clock. Another example. Mayari-san wa nansai desu ka? Mayari-san wa nansai desu ka? So, ito gumagamit ng mga question words. Hindi na siya sasagutin lang ng yes or no. Kasi tinanong kung ilang taon na si Mary. Mayari-san wa. Mayari-san, ito yung Mary. Ito ngayon yung particle wa. And then, yung question natin, nansai. Nansai desu ka? Okay, sinagot niya na. 19 歳です. 19 歳です. Okay, later on, maganda sa uluhin ninyo paano yung Japanese from 1 and so on and so forth. Okay? Once na nagets nyo naman na yung pattern, kaya nyo na magbilang hanggang hundreds. Okay? Basta makagets nyo lang yung pattern paano siya i-translate into Japanese. And then, also, we have counters na nagkakaroon siya ng mga special pronunciation kapag ka nadudugtungan ng mga counters. So, for this one, 90 years old, 19歳です. Another question. 何年生ですか? 何年生ですか? What year are you in college? 何年生ですか? 2年生です. 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 So, ni is 2 and nensei ay yung year mo. Okay, sa school. So, kaya sophomore kasi ang mga sophomore sila yung mga second year. Okay? Denwa bango wa nan desu ka? Okay, so nan din ang ginamit na pronunciation dito kasi it is written or placed before des. Okay, sabi natin kapag ka nilagay siya before des or before ng mga counters, yan, which is G, Sai. Okay, and sama na rin itong nensei. Yan ay pinapronounce as nan. Okay. Ngayon, nakalagay dito, Ichi, Hachi, Roku no Nana, Sang, Yong, Sang, Des. Okay, so, kapag ka nilagyan dito ng dash, pagdating sa number, binabasa yan as particle, no. Ginagamit yan as, binabasa yan as no. Okay, so, yan ay binabasa na no. Ichi, Hachi, Roku no Nana, Sang, Yong, Sang. Okay, so that's all for our second pattern or our second topic, yung question sentences. If you want to make a question, dagdagan mo lang ng ka sa dulo and you no longer have to put a question mark. It is no longer necessary kapag ka naglagay ka na ng ka. Okay, take note, pag may ka, wala nang question mark. Okay, so let's proceed to our third topic, which is noun no, noun 1 no, noun 2. Noun 1 no, noun 2. So, yung no na yan yung tinatawag natin na particle. So, ano naman ang gamit ng particle no? Okay, so, we have our third pattern, Noun 1, no. Noun 2. So, our second particle, which is no. Tingnan natin dito sa book. No is a particle that connects to nouns. So, very clear, ang particle no, ito ay nagko-connect ng nouns. Pati po ba verb? Hindi. Sabi dito, noun lang. Okay? Connects noun. Okay. So, take note again. Particles. So, we have now two particles na napag-aaralan. Itong particle wow, which marks the subject, and particle no, which connect to or which connect nouns. Not just two nouns. Kahit ilang nouns yan, pwede niyang i-connect. So, basta tandaan nyo lang, ang kino-connect ng particle no ay mga noun. Siguro naman, di pa natin nalilimutan yung part of the speech. Okay? That's one of the parts of speech which is noun. So, the phrase Sakura daigaku no gakuse, okay, Sakura daigaku no gakuse means a student at Sakura University. Okay, so Sakura Daigaku, yan yung Sakura University. Sakura and Daigaku, yun yung university. Okay, yan yung Nihongo ng university. No, that's the particle. And then, gakuse. Gakuse, student. Ngayon, the second noun, gakuse, provides the main idea, being a student. And the first one, Sakura Daigaku, makes it more specific. Not a high school, but a college student. Mapapansin nyo dito sa paggamit ng particle no, para malaman mo ano ba yung main idea dito. Ano ba yung pinag-uusapan. Okay? Ano ba yung pinaka-topic natin dito? Again, the main idea. Lagi nyo siyang makikita sa dulo. So, kung meron kang dalawang noun na ginamitan, na i-connect gamit ang particle no, yung noun to mo, yun yung main idea. For example, in this sentence, Sakura daigaku no gakuse. Ito yung particle no, ito yung noun 1, at ito yung noun 2. So, ang main idea, itong noun 2, yung dulo. Okay? Lagi kang titingin sa dulo, ayun yung main idea. So, ang pinag-uusapan dito is yung student. Student of, or student at Sakura daigaku. Okay, let's proceed with this. No is very versatile. In the first example below, it acts like the possessive X in English, but that is not the only role no can play. See how it connects two nouns in the following examples. Okay. So, kung maaalala ninyo sa English, for example, Mary's bag. Kapag sabi natin Mary's bag, yung bag ni Mary. Mary's bag. Diba ganito natin siya isulat? Yan. Mary's bag. Meron tayong nilalagay na apostrophe as, okay, to be clear that it is possessive. Pagmamay-ari ni Mary yung bag. Mary's bag. Ngayon, sa English, sa Nihongo rather, we don't use apostrophe. So, sabi nga dito, it acts like the possessive X or yung noun apostrophe S in English. Okay? So, Takeshi's phone number. Takeshi's phone number. Paano natin siya itatranslate? Ngayon, ilagay muna natin yung Takeshi. Takeshi-sang dahil we are referring to other person. Takeshi-sang. Takeshi-sang no, and then yung phone number. Dengwa bango. Takeshi-sang no, dengwa bango. So with this, ano yung main idea natin? Ano yung pinag-uusapan natin dyan? Walang iba kundi yung dengwa bango. Yung number ni Takeshi. And next, dito pasilin naman natin, a college professor. So this one, hindi na to possessive now. Okay? Hindi na to possessive. Hindi na to pagmamay-ari. Pero, mas ine-specify lang natin. To be very specific, we are not just referring na siya ay teacher. So, teacher siya ng ng high school, ng elementary, or ng college. So, sabi dito, Daigaku no sensei. Sensei. Daigaku no sensei. Daigaku, ayun yung college. Particle no. And sensei. Okay? Sensei. Dito, makikita ninyo, no, na etong dalawang to, na kinonect ng no, pareho silang noun. Tandaan ninyo, ang kinoconnect lang ng particle no ay noun. Dito, in-specify lang na hindi lang basta sensei, kundi sensei ng kolehiyo. No, teacher siya ng college. Teacher siya sa college. He is a college professor. And then next, Nihongo no gakuse. Nihongo no gakuse, a student of the Japanese language. Nihongo is yung Japanese language and student. So, kanina, halimbawa tinanong, estudyante ba sila? Estudyante ba yung mga yon? Sabi niya, hi. Ngayon, tatanungin mo, estudyante ng ano? Ngayon, pwede mo nang sagutin na, Nihongo no gakuse. So, sila ay student of the Japanese language. Mas ini-specify mo lang kung ano yung tinutukoy. And then again, what is the main idea in this phrases? Laging yung huli. Huli nung particle no. So, particle no and then yung huling noun, that is the main idea. Nihon no Daigaku, a college in Japan. So, ngayon, makikita din naman ninyo na dito, na-arrange sila in the same order. The first two words are arranged in the same order. May kita nyo na Takeshi-san no denwa bango, Takeshi's phone number. Takeshi, andito sa unahan, denwa bango, nasa dulo, phone number. Same with the second sentence, Daigaku, college, sensei, professor. Pero dito sa third and fourth sentences, baliktad na. Nihongo, that is Japanese language, andito na sa dulo. And then gakuse, a student, nasa unahan na. Nihon no, or Nihon, Japan, nasa dulo. And Daigaku, college, nasa unahan. So sometimes, the way you read it is not always the same. Minsan, mauuna, kapag ka-translate mo siya into English, mauuna tong before no, and then mahuhuli tong main idea. But, lagi natin tandaan, the main idea always comes at the end with any further description placed before it. Okay, the main idea, mabalik-baliktad man yung pagbasa dyan, ang main idea pa rin is yung nasa dulo. Okay? Take note of that. The main idea for the pattern, noun, no, noun, kahit pa maging tatlo pa yan, noun, no, noun, no, noun, kahit tatlong noun pa yan, yung nasa dulo pa rin yung magiging main idea. Okay? Then, tingnan natin tong note na nandito sa baba. Okay. Here is what we mean by the main idea. In the phrase Takeshi-san no denwa bango, Takeshi's phone number, the noun denwa bango is the main idea. In the sense that if something is Takeshi's phone number, it is a phone number. Okay, the other noun Takeshi-san is not the main idea because Takeshi's phone number is not Takeshi. Nagets ba ninyo? Na hindi si Takeshi yung phone number. Yung phone number ay yung number lang, kumbaga telephone number lang ni Takeshi-san. Okay? Yun lang yung halimbawa tinatanong lang na ano tong number na to? May nakita sila, halimbawa nakita sa papel tong yan. May nakitang number sa desk. For example, yan. Yan, 010123. Halimbawa, ano to? Anong number to? Address ba to? Or anong number to? Ngayon sinagot, ayan ay, ano? Takeshi-san no denwa bango desu. Takeshi-san no denwa bango desu. Ngayon, i-refer lang, yan yung number ni Takeshi. Okay? So, we're clear with that. Okay, to emphasize more, meron tayo ditong table na mas mag-explain pa. Ayan. Noun 1, no, noun 2. Further restriction. Okay, mas in-specify niya lang. And then, main idea. A phrase of the form noun, no noun acts more or less like one big noun. You can put it wherever you can put a noun, as in the following example. So remember, we have our first pattern. We have here X, Y, this. And then, as you remember, ang X na yan at saka yung Y, they are both noun. Parang noun 1, noun 2, this. Ngayon, etong ating third pattern na noun 1, no, noun 2, it can act as one noun. Okay? It can act as one whole noun. A big noun. Sabi nga dito, as described by the book. It acts more or less like one big noun. How do we do that? Okay? For example, we have here, Takeshi's mother is a high school teacher. Nihongo, Takeshi-san no okasang. Okay, gumamit tayo dito ng noun, no, noun. Takeshi, the first noun, no, and then the second noun, okasang. Ano yung main idea dito? Ano yung pinag-uusapan? Yung nasa dulo, okasang. So, yung nanay daw ni Takeshi ay ano? So, gumamit tayo ng particle wa. Ito yung first pattern natin, X, Y, this. Okay? So, ang subject ay yung nanay. Ang pinag-uusapan, yung nanay. Koko no sensei. Koko no sensei. So, pwede naman sabihin na Takeshi-san no okasang wa sensei this. Sensei this. Okay? Pwede na sabihin na ganun na ang nanay ni Takeshi ay isang teacher. Pero, gusto pang bigyan ng more restriction or yung specification pa. Mas malinaw. Okay? Na hindi lang siya teacher, siya ay teacher ng mga high school student or siya ay teacher sa high school. Kaya, mas in-specify pa, Koko no sensei des. So, para tong one big noun, pero ang tinutukoy lang dyan ay yung teacher. Okay? Ito lang, kumbaga, mas specific lang kung anong teacher. Pwede pa natin yan dagdagan. Pwede natin lagyan dito ng Nihon. Okay? So, siya ay high school teacher in Japan. Okay? Nihon no koko no sensei des. So, siya ay isang teacher sa Japanese high school. A Japanese high school teacher. Okay. Takeshi's mother is a Japanese high school teacher. Takeshi-san no okasang wa Nihon no koko no sensei des. So, tatlo na yung noun natin doon, but it won't change the fact na ang main idea pa rin natin ay yung sensei. Are we clear on that? Okay. So, remember, for our first lesson, we have X, Y, des. Better, we could change this to, instead of X and Y, let's change it to noun 1 and noun 2. Okay. Noun 1 wa, noun 2 des. And then we have the question sentences. We just add ka at the end of a sentence, of a statement. And then we have noun 1 no, noun 2. It can act as possessive, like in English, or it can be used to add restriction to your noun just to be more specific what you are trying to say. But the main idea is always the last noun. Okay, laging yung last noun. And it can be like a one big noun na magagamit nyo sa iba't ibang patterns. Like, do sa una nating pattern na X, Y, des. Alright, so let's proceed with our culture notes. Itong mga culture notes na to, pinag-aaralan natin just so we are aware of the words na ginagamit nila daily. Kumbaga sa daily living, syempre, we have our book, mapag-aaralan natin yung grammar, pero iba pa rin yung mas masasanay tayong gamitin yung mga daily words nila. Okay? When Japanese give their name, they say their family name first and given name last. Okay, pag sabing family name sa atin, mga Pilipino, ayun yung tinatawag natin na surname. Okay, apelyido. They say their family name first, inuuna nila sabihin yon, and given name last. Pag sinabing given name ay yung pangalan. Sa atin kasi pag sabing anong pangalan mo, ibig sabihin nun sa kanila yun yung given name. Okay? Ibinigay na pangalan. Kasi family name, you have no choice. Talagang yun yung pangalan na i-attach sa'yo. So, middle name do not exist. Wala silang mga middle name. For example, sa atin, yung kumbaga, surname ng ating nanay. Diba? Yun yung nakukuha natin na middle name. Sa kanila, walang ganon. When introducing themselves, they often say only their family name. Here are some typical Japanese names. So, madalas, sa kanila daw, family name lang. Madalas yung maririnig yan. Sato, Suzuki, Takahashi, Tanaka, Ito. So, siguro naman, yung iba sa inyo nakakanood kayo ng mga anime. Kapag nanood kayo na hindi yung nakadub na in Tagalog, okay, pag yung talagang nakinig kayo ng anime, madalas nyo talagang maririnig yung mga apelyido nila. Lalo kapag hindi sila ganun ka-close. No, family name ang sinasabi. Pero, kaya nga kapag naging close na nila, pwede na nilang gamitin yung kanilang given name. Kumbaga tinatawag na nila. So, for example, kung ang pangalan niya ay Takuya, pag nagpakilala siya, Sato Takuya. Sato Takuya. Okay? Shota, Ichiro, Hiroshi, Masahiro, Erika, Ai, Naomi, Yuko, at Misaki. Most Japanese names are written in kanji. So, kadalasan ng Japanese name, yan ay nakasulat in kanji. For example, Tanaka is usually written as, ito ay kanji ng, itong una, kanji yan ng field, rice field. At itong pangalawang kanji yan ay kanji ng naka, or loob, okay, inside, yung naka. Which means middle of the rice field. Sa kanila kasi, ang pangalan na ibinibigay ay merong kahulugan. No, kumbaga parang feeling nila tong bata na to ay ganito, ganyan. No, parang ito yung kahulugan ng bata nung bata na to, parang sakura kasi ang sakura ay bulaklak, no? So para siyang bulaklak, no? Or pangalanan siya ng Shizuka, para siguro feeling nila pag sabi nating Shizuka, tahimik. So mukhang tong bata na to ay ang personality niya ay tahimik. So, ganun sa kanila, may mga meaning ang pangalan nila. So, ang Tanaka, meaning yung middle of the rice field. Family names are often related to nature or geographical features. Because many kanji shares the same reading, names with the same pronunciation may be written with different kanji, such as eto at eto, yan for feminine name, Yuko. So, it also means Yuko, ito rin Yuko. Pag sinabing ko, ang ko ay maliit. Okay, maliit. So, maliit na bata. Ko. Ayan, parang ayan yung kanji niya. Okay. So, that's all for our culture notes. Let us proceed with our expression notes or yung mga useful notes. Yan, we have here, ano. Ano. Itong ano na to, meron din kasi tayo mapag-aaralan na ano, parang kono, sono, ano. Okay, so ito, hindi siya ano. Yan ay binabasa as yung kono, ito, sono, yan, ano, ayun. Okay, this, that, ayun yun. Okay, so itong ano na to, ano, kumbaga, ano, yung alam niyo yung mga filler, ano indicates that you have some reservations about saying what you are going to say next. Reservation, bakit ka may reservation? You may be worried about interrupting something someone is currently doing. Possible na kasi baka maka-interrupt ka pero kailangan mong sabihin. So you use that filler, chotto, onigay ga, or chotto, hanashita desu. Gustong may pag-usap or meron kang maliit na favor. So you are using ano as a filler, or if you are sounding rude and impolite for asking personal questions, for example. So ginagamit tong filler na to kapag ka medyo nag-aalangan ka but you have to say it. Okay? And also to add on that, normally it is spelled with prolonged. So meron pa yung parang sa dulo. Ano kapag ka isinusulat normally. Okay? And next here we have hi and e. Hi, e. Ito pareho ay nagkakahulugan ng yes. Actually, meron pang isa. Etong un. Ano yun? Okay, sulat natin. Hi. So, meron silang level of formality kapag ka ginagamit. Hi. At So, these are the 3 yeses. Yan. Yes lang lahat yan. Pero, they are used in different scenarios or situation. Yang hi, ginagamit yan in a formal situation. So, if you're talking to a boss, if you're talking to a stranger, or someone higher in position than you use hi. E is more on a conversational. Okay. So, you're not trying to be casual with this. Okay, and but you're not being too formal as well. Not too formal, not too informal. And then lastly, ito naman na yung informal na talaga or casual lang siya. Ayan. So, hi is formal. And then, I for conversational. I informal. Okay. So, with that in mind, sabi nga dito, compared to hi, is more conversational and relaxed. In more informal situation, is used. Ganun na lang siya. Hi is also used to respond to a knock at the door or the calling of one's name, meaning here as follows. Cannot be replaced in this case. Teacher. Yan. Halimbawa, tinawag si Kim, di ba? Si Kim Smith. Sumisu-sang. Mr. Smith, ngayon sinagot, hi, hindi ngayon siya pwedeng palitan ng o kaya, hindi siya ganon. Kapag gusto mo sabihin na, andito po, or kumbaga sa atin, pag tinanong, okay, Miss Mirasol, present. Mr. Cruz, present. Okay, gets ninyo? Sa kanila, ginagamit, hi. O, kung kailangan ba tumaas na kamay, hi. Diba? Ganun sasabihin nila, here, dito po. Hindi siya pwedeng palitan ng or Okay? Okay? Next one is so desu ka. So desu ka. So desu ka acknowledge that you have understood what was just said. Is that so? Or I see. Okay? So desu ka, ayun lang yung response sa halimbawa may sinabi sa yung information and it is useful or you just found out about it. Okay? Ngayon mo lang nalaman. Ang sagot mo dun ay so desu ka. So, clearly you're just trying to say, I see. Is that so? Okay. So desu ka. Hindi siya tanong talaga. Okay? Dahil kahit may nakalagay dyan na ka, hindi naman siya literally na nagtatanong ka. Diba? Parang, is that so? Patanong siya, pero that's just a response. You're not actually asking a question. Okay? I see. Is that so? Alright, next, pronunciation of wa. Ayan, nabanggit ko na sa inyo kanina na kapag ka ang wa ay ginagamit, ang ha ay ginagamit as a particle, it is pronounced wa, not ha. Okay? And then, another exemption is yung konnichiwa at konbanwa. Konnichiwa, konbanwa. Okay, sila ay written as spelling ng ha, pero ang basa ay wa. Okay, get it? We have the particle wa. Meron tayong konnichiwa, konbanwa. Konnichiwa, konbanwa. Okay. Now, we have the numbers. Okay? Numbers, many number words have more than one pronunciation. Refer to the table at the end of this book for a general picture. Okay, so, ang mga number, we have ichi, san, yon, go, roku, nana, hachi, kyu, ju. Okay, so, etong mga number na to, hindi sila binabasa ng kumbaga isang basa lang. Kapag gumamit tayo ng ibang counters, minsan nababago. When we say counters, for example, counter of time, di ba? Yung number 4 na dati yan ay ang basa sa 4 ay yung, kapag ka sa oras, ginagamit dun ay halimbawa sa oras, yoji, nawawala na yung n, hindi na siya yung yoji. Okay? Kapag ka naman buwan, halimbawa sa buwan kasi meron tayong 12 months. So yung 12 months na yon from January, ichi. Dagdagan mo na lang ng counters na gatsu. Ichigatsu, ichigatsu, nigatsu, sangatsu. Ngayon, yung hindi siya yonggatsu. Ang ginagamit yung isa pang pronunciation ng 4 which is shigatsu. Okay, so isa-isahin natin. 0 and rei. So 0, ito ay 0 o kaya naman ay rei. They are both commonly used. So normal na gamitin ang 0, normal din yan ang rei. Ngayon naman, we have ichi. Ichi but pronounced as i. So, meron tayong chisaitsu. Pag may nakita kayong chisaitsu at nadugtungan pa yan ng sumunod na mga letters, para ang susunod na letter right after ng chisaitsu ay nagiging doble. For example, ito. Ippun. Ito ay pu. Pu. So, since nagkaroon ng chisaitsu, okay, sulat natin para mas maintindihan nyo. Okay, so, yan. Ippun. Ippun. So, ito ay binabasa as i and then ito ay pu and then yung n. Ippun. Dahil meron chisaitsu, itong p na to magiging doble. Magkakaroon pa ng isang p. So, yan. Yan na magiging spelling yan. At pag binasa yan, itong dalawa ay magka-dugtong. Okay, kaya babasahin niya ng ip. Ip, and then the next syllable, pun. So, ang pagsyllable niyan ay ganito. Ip-pun. Ip-pun. Okay? Get it? Every time may makita kayong chisay tsu. Tsu kasi yan, di ba? Tsu. T-S-U. Kaya tinawag na chisay, ang chisay ay maliit. Kaya siya, chisai tsu. Okay. Chisai tsu. So, yan ay ippun. So, from ichi, kapag nilalagyan natin siya ng counter of time, magiging ippun na siya. Hindi na siya ichipun. Yan, ang pun nga pala, fun ay counters for minute. Counters for hours ay ji. Counters for minutes, fun. Okay? Fun. Pero dahil dito, for ichi, magkakaroon siya ng chisai tsu ippun. So, kapag ka naman counters for age, hindi siya ichisai, kundi isai. Isai. So, yan. Ngayon, possible magiging confusing pa sa inyo, but the key is to memorize it. You have to memorize the counters. Counters for age, counters for time. Andyan, meron niyang guide. And then, once you memorized it, it won't be a problem anymore. Basta masaulo nyo lang yan. It will be easy. Okay. Ni all the time. When you are reading out each digit separately, as when you give your phone number, it may be pronounced with the long vowel as ni. Okay, so ni lang lagi ang spelling niyan, pero kapag ka ginagamit ang ni sa phone number, dengwa bango, parang napoprolong lang daw yan. So, ni. Halimbawa, ichi, ni, sang, no, yonggo, roku, no, nana, hachi, kyu. Okay? So, yun lang yun. Yun lang yung sa word na ni. So, nisai, niji, nifun, same lang yun. Madugtungan man ng counters, same lang ang pagbasa. Okay? Sang, all the time. The part that follows it may change shape as in sang, sangbun, instead of sangfun. Okay, so, sa sang naman, hindi naman nababago yung sang, pero yung mga sumusunod doon. For example, yung minutes, sang bun. Or kapag ka naman sa hundreds, yaku ang 100. So pag 100 ichi yaku ni yaku, kapag ka naman 300 sang byaku. Yung instead na yaku, nagkaroon ng teng-teng, nagiging byaku. Okay? Yan. Ang yaku ay hundreds. Pero dahil ang sang ang ginamit dito sa unahan, yung hi ay nagkakaroon ng teng-teng, naging byaku. Sang byaku. Okay. Next, we have yong. Yong is the most basic, but 4th year student is yonensei, na wala na yung N. Pansinin nyo. And 4 o'clock is yoji. Same with this, na wala din yung N. In some combinations that we will later learn, it is read as shi. Tulad nga na nabanggit ko sa inyo, yung April, shigatsu. The part that follows this number may change shape too, as in yonpun. Yonpun. Okay? Go all the time, yung 5. Pero katulad nung ni, napoprolong lang, nagiging go. Okay? Roku, but pronounced as yung ro na may chisay. Just as ropun. Okay? Nana is the most basic, but 7 o'clock is shichiji. So, sometimes it is nana, misa maririnig nyo naman, shichi. Okay? 7 din yun. Hachi, but usually pronounced as ha na may chisay tsu. And then, Q, most basic, but 9 o'clock is ku. So, merong Q, merong ku. And, Ju, for 10, but pronounced as Jup na merong chisay tsu or G in Jupun or Jipun. And, Jusay or Jisay. Jisay. So, minsan siya ay Ju, minsan siya ay G. With chisay tsu. Okay? Giving one's telephone number, the particle no is usually placed in between the local exchange code and the last 4 digit. Therefore, the number rei or 0, 0 ichi ni sangyonggo no roku nanahachi q is 0. Okay, so merong no na nilalagay. Pinapalitan yan ng no. Okay? Sensei, the word sensei is usually reserved for describing somebody else's occupation. Okay? Watashi wa sensei, this makes sense but may sound slightly arrogant. So, ito medyo tricky lang naman sa kanila. Sometimes, kapag nire-refer mo yung sarili mo, sometimes they use kyoshi instead of sensei. Okay? And sa doktor, ginagamit din yung sensei. Okay, as a teacher of medical, in the medical field. So, ito na yung sinasabi ko sa inyo kanina, when you are trying to refer or a title to someone, sang is placed after a name as a generic title. Generic titles, sabihin parang hindi ka nagre-refer sa lalaki or sa babae. Okay? It goes both with a given name and a family name. Pwede siya sa pangalan or pwede rin siya sa apelyido. For example, si Sato Takuya. Sato is the last name, Takuya is the given name. So, you can call him Takuya-san o kaya Sato-san. It can be both with the given name or the last name or the family name. Children are referred to as chan. So, madalas sa mga bata, ginagamitan niya ng chan. So, pag may mga readings kayo sa book ninyo or may nakita kayo, chan ang gamit, bata yan. Okay? And boys in particular as kun. And sa lalaki na bata, kun ang gamit rather than san. Hindi naman mali na gumamit ng san, pero mas bagay or mas appropriate, mas preferred na gamitin ang chan sa batang babae and kun sa batang lalaki. Professors and doctors are usually referred to with the title sensei. San and other title words are never used in reference to oneself. So, kahit anong mga titles ay hindi ginagamit sa sarili, like san, pag nire-refer mo yung sarili mo. Okay? Referring to the person you are talking to. Ngayon sa Japan, di ba tayo, kumain ka na? Hindi mo na sinasabi yung pangalan ng kausap mo. Halimbawa, kausap ko si Mary. Mary, kumain ka na? Di ba hindi tayo madalas na gumagamit ng pangalan. Basta sabi natin na, kumain ka na ba? Sa kanila, or have you eaten already? Have you eaten yet? Diba? Minsan, ino-omitan natin yung pangalan. Sa kanila, instead of anata, yung you, they normally call them in their Japanese name. Okay. Instead, we use the name and a title like san and sensei to refer to the person you are talking to. Therefore, a sentence like, Miss Hart, are you Swedish? Should be, Hato sang wa Sweden jin desu ka? Sweden jin desu ka? Ngayon, kapag ka nire-refer mo yung kausap mo, sinasabi mo yung pangalan. So, for example, yun nga, kumain ka na ba? Mary, kumain ka na? Mary sang wa tabemashita ka? Mo tabemashita ka? Ngayon, ginagamit mo yung pangalan niya to refer siya mismo, kahit kausap mo na siya harapan, no? Tinatawag mo siya mismo sa pangalan niya. Ganun sa Japan normally. Okay, that's all for lesson 1 and the culture notes and the useful expressions. So, please do your practices, renshu, practice. Okay, ito para masaulo nyo yung mga numbers. Okay, and for time, answer that. And okay, so para mas ma-familiarize pa kayo. Okay, again, if you haven't memorized your hiragana and katakana yet, please do so. Please take time na masaulo ito talaga. Kumbaga parang English alphabet na lang sa inyo na naiintindihan ninyo para hindi na kayo gumagamit ng Romaji. Okay? And mas madali nang intindihin tong mga lessons or tong mga practices ninyo sa book. Alright? So, we'll see you on our next lesson. Please familiarize dito sa first lesson natin yung ating mga patterns na napag-aralan. Okay, yung mga napag-aralan natin yung noun 1 wa into this question sentences, noun 1 no, noun 2, yung pinag-aralan natin na mga particles like particle wa which marks the subject, particle no which connects the noun. How do we make a statement, a question sentence? So please study, mag-take down notes kayo. You can watch this video over and over again so that you can be familiarized. Okay? Thank you. Ja, mata ne.